when she was talking about the sequence of events earlier, right, or the sequence of success, or I forget, yeah, I think that when you put that, because I talk about this with my cousins all the time, because all the older cousins, we had kids after the kids we took care of had kids, and I think it makes you more responsible, but it also makes you like
not want to have kids.
not want to go through this.
Yeah.
Like it's different being a parent for my own kid. I used to say this all the time. I didn't have the sex. Why do I have to raise the child? I used to be mad about this. Like,
wow.
It could breed some resentment. That's what I'm gonna say. It could breed some resentment.
Okay.
That's how, and I agree with that, because that's why when I had my son and my daughter were so far apart, I wanted to make sure that if I had to go somewhere, I'll ask him to watch her sometimes, but I'll pay him to watch her, or I will just take her to her friend, to the sitter's house. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to make sure I didn't have one of those situations where my son took on, taking care of my daughter. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just didn't want to be that parent.
Welcome back to Money, Marriage, and Media. I'm Mike, your host, and today we are with Chic Critique. Single parents often rely on the children to carry the burden. Obviously, we're going to be talking about some money, so I'm here for it. Let's do it.
Ladies, if you don't have a man, you won't make enough money to afford being in a nursing home. Most women are going to end up homeless. They're not ready for that.
Well, they're relying on their children.
Society, Social Security, disability, SSI will fracture.
Yeah, this was common practice for a while, but the truth of the matter is, with the rising cost of inflation over the last 25 to 30 years, the children can no longer afford to take care of the parents, especially if they're single. Like your kids don't get married and they out there single trying to take care of themselves. They can't afford to take care of mom after a certain age. They just don't have it. People just don't make money like that.
If half the women in society who are going to be single need that much help all at once, it's going to be non-existent. The money to pay for that stuff, it won't. Your man is supposed to be in the house paying the rent for the bills. As soon as he dies off, one of your children whom you gave generational wealth to, or can sell your home that you had with your man, can use that money to take care of you. The generational wealth is gone. The chance at financial freedom is gone, all because you didn't get married. And now you stop having kids. So those kids won't be equipped to take care of you. Women don't think about this stuff at all.
Well, I'm going to be...
Okay. Wait a minute. Now, there's a lot that's missing from there. The idea of selling the home, that's actually pretty common. But we know what makes more sense? Having a term life insurance policy. That way hold on. Having a term life insurance policy as well as investing. And a lot of times, most women are not in a position, they don't make enough to start investing, but you definitely make enough to afford a term life insurance policy. There's no reason why you shouldn't have one. The other thing is that this is more of an incentive to get married, while while women need to take it more serious. This is why I always talk about we need to do a better job of raising our kids to work in cooperation with each other, so that they know the importance of why we need each other. For women, this is a big reason why. For men, it's not so much, because does the average man make enough to make it through the end of life through retirement? No, but men die sooner. And most men are okay with dying on their feet, meaning that he's just going to work for a lifetime. Most men are okay with that because it's the burden of masculinity. That's what comes with being a man. So, let's keep going.
Be honest, and this is just a little bit of pushback, is that when we're talking about that, let's say with like you're saying, women are not thinking about getting married. I think men are not talking about getting married either. When we're talking about in these spaces, we hear it a lot, that they're actually saying not to get married is not a benefit, which and I know that what we're talking about right now, as you get your older age, there is definitely a benefit. But with women, if we're talking especially Black women, we're saying, they are, head of their households, that the men of the fathers of these kids are not necessarily there. So when we look at the average lifespan of women and men are typically dying earlier than the women.
Yep.
And then when we look at the fact that if they're not in a household, we can assume that they don't necessarily have a relationship to the degree like with their fathers. So I think women will not necessarily, because they don't have a man, but they're going to be relying on their children that they had.
That is so unfair. We also know that not only is it unfair, children that come from single mother-led homes are a significant less likelihood of getting married themselves. So now you're asking a single man or woman or your single son or daughter who's probably going to be, in their 40s, 50s, to carry the financial burden. The mother, have nothing to leave them, nothing to sell, right? As in a family home, anything. So the entire financial burden of a mother is on a child. This is why I said most women are going to be homeless. These kids or that woman's kids will likely just be self-sustaining and able to take care of themselves. That's probably what they'll be doing at that age. The medical bills and medication for their mother at that age will fracture them.
Trigger Mike brings up an interesting point, and I just want to go ahead and slide something in here right quick. Average income for the state of California for women, $27,000. Now you making $27,000 a year. Notice what it says for men. It's 40, right? But here's the thing, though. You can't afford to take care of another person. I don't care if it is your mom at $27,000. And this is the most, according to this chart, this is the most women have made in the last, since 2012, probably longer than that. I would say this is the most women have probably ever made, period. Right? So where does this come from? The U.S. Census. Now, in California, the average man is making 40. But that's still not enough. This is why we need to promote marriage more, because we've got arguments coming from both sides about what Miss Taken was talking about. Well, no, there's no benefit to marriage. Yes, it is. It's right here. It's in black and white. Most people don't make enough money to make it to the end of life through retirement. So yeah, that I'd say that's a big reason. The other thing is that if you plan on having kids, well, how far behind do you want to set your kids? I mean, we all seen the data, single parent households that it, and you can give me the data points about, single dads produce the same results. Yeah, but it comes at a cost though. Usually that man's sanity, because he's doing the work of 2 to 3 people. So don't talk to me about that stuff, because if he had a wife, he would be ecstatic that somebody else. Can I get a break from watching the kids? Oh, thank God. Please. No, I don't want to hear that, man. So what are we talking about? Let's go ahead and press play, because I'm just getting ready to summarize, and it's way too soon for that.
That's why a lot of these women are going to end up estranged from their kids and on the streets. Because
I'm speaking from what I can say what I know, because I know my own personal anecdotals, it does not necessarily represent the majority. But what I'm saying in terms of the people that I've been around and that I know, or who are currently in situations that have the mom is single and they have children and they're of age, that those children are taking care of the mom. They are. Now, whether you say that is not fair, when we look at historically, that's what families do. It's not just related.
We don't know what this new generation they on.
Right.
I was going to say that's going to leave. That's actually going to leave with this generation. The last generation that was raised right is going out. They're going out. Mm-hmm. So this is the generation of kids whose parents were never married. Right, the last generation of married kid, these kids had married parents. They had married examples. We're going into Gen Z, millennials and Gen Z, who 70% of the black ones, they never saw an example of marriage. Most of these men, unfortunately, I'm sorry, they hate their mother. They secretly resent her for not giving them a father figure and all that. A lot of these boys hate their mother, and the daughters hate their mom too. They're not going to. You see the jobs they're choosing. They're not getting married. That's the part about it. They're not getting married or creating any kind of substantial wealth. So that's why I brought the up the example of them having at least one asset to take care of the mother with. Right? My mom and dad still live together. They pushing 70. They've told me all of their plans. I'm the eldest. The second one of them goes, my dad said whether she wants to or not, it's probably gonna be me. You bring her, or you or your brother, take her, sell that house. Don't let her keep it and have you paying mortgage on it or whatever. Don't let her do that. Sell it to take care of her. Right? So that's what this generation has. Our family built something that we can sell to take care of them. And life insurance. I'm sorry. Sell that if I need to, but I also got $1 million in life insurance coming when he died. These kids behind us, Gen Z and millennials don't have that. They won't have it.
We got a real bad deal when you think about it. We either was latchkey kids or a lot of people didn't have an active parent in the home. Then when they parent ages,
God,
they didn't
latchkey
really
kids
do everything that you might have felt was necessary for a parent that you felt was acceptable to do. Then when they age, we still got to take care of them. That's not a great deal. I ain't gonna lie. You didn't get what you needed when you're young, and now you gotta give them what they need when they're old. I'd be really resentful.
But why would you? Because I mean, well, I ain't gonna say why would you, but when I just like how I said, when I think, and I think that actually speaks to the point that Trigger Mike, you were saying, or even Coach K, in terms of the nuclear family. To be honest, that was the life cycle. That was the expectation. That when you're young, of course, your parents, they take care of you. And then when they get of a certain age, then you take care of them. But so I don't understand why that's not like a thing. Like, or that.
Well, I'll give it the reason why is because, again, there are no marriages. There's no 2-income households. So now when you have that one person taking care of mom, they can't afford to do it. I just showed y'all what the income is for California. California is one of the most expensive states to live in. But yet and still, women are making 27, the men are making 40. That's not enough. You can't support yourself. You're not making enough to adequately save for retirement at that point. I mean, you might be able to skirt by on 40, but something tells me 40 is in a major city where the cost of living is higher. If you did that and you were like, in a small town, that'd be great. But most small towns in California don't have jobs that pay that kind of money. So yeah, you kind of stuck with that. My advice is, well, you know what, y'all gonna have to figure it out. Especially if you on this channel, and I'm assuming that most of you watching this channel are pro marriage. If you're not and you watching this channel, I don't know why you're watching it, but you're gonna have to figure out what are your long-term plans. How do you plan on making it to the end of life through retirement, especially if by yourself? Because what's your advice to most men? Because most men don't make enough money to do that, to support themselves. And even then, let's say, well, I mentioned before about men dying on their feet. What I didn't mention was the quality of life at that point. Because if you have a career now, they're not going to keep you around like that. After a certain age point, they're going to let you go because it just makes good business sense to say, you know what, this person has had 50-year raises. We can hire somebody who's, in their late 20s and pay them less money, but they're going to do the same job. That's just unfortunately, that's just good business. So where does that leave you? Because, I said this on somebody else's show, that if you notice 20 years ago, the same jobs are not available for elderly people. I still remember when Walmart would hire you as a greeter. They don't do that anymore. You're going to be in the back lifting boxes, putting boxes and unloading the truck like everybody else. They don't care about that stuff. So, Same thing when you go to grocery stores, Kroger, Publix, all these places. You know, they used to hire elderly people to come in and greet you as you came in, you know, make sure the carts get put away, that kind of stuff. They don't do that anymore. They equal opportunists, right? But hey, let's keep it going.
That's being looked at as not something that you know, that's normal.
So
you shouldn't do. Like, I thought that was what's supposed to happen.
it was a clip that went viral the other day about a young boy who his mother was saying how she bought him everything that he could have wanted. He had all the Jordans and all this stuff, and he
didn't want that.
He didn't want that. He wanted her there, and he was upset because she made him raise her kids for her. I think that there's more people that had to do that than maybe people know about, especially because how do you have multiple?
That's so funny. That's true, because people think, because I'm an educator now, but I remember I used to work for JP Morgan. And I remember when I had my son, I said, I don't want to work here. You know, I weaned my way out of it and went into education. I went into education for my child. I did. I left it. I felt like there was more motherly. I wanted to be involved in my child's education. And so I went and got my higher degree in education and left my job for that reason, so that I can have more time to spend with my kid and to be, you know, the best mom I could possibly be. Just wanted to share that.
That's a great story about how you did.
I mean,
you know what? That's actually interesting though, because a lot of women will do that. They will leave potential careers because being a mom is more important. You know, whether or not you do that, that is irrelevant. Some women do that, some don't. I mean, we're living in, I think today is one of the benefits, and we never talk about this, nobody ever mentions this, but one of the benefits today of modern men and women is that we're more flexible with the roles in the marriage. The reason I say that, because a lot of times on content like this, we'll shame women because they have a career, we call them masculine and everything else. But I think what needs to happen is that we've got to be more, we need to be more aware of what's actually working. Because again, the marriage rates are too low in our community for us to be picky about who's going to do what. So in Shan's example, yeah, that makes sense. Now, is she married? No, but I'm assuming that at some point she was with the child's father and they were together in a relationship. So maybe they worked that out. In most cases, both men and women prefer the man to be the breadwinner. My only problem with that is that when people give it pushback saying that women can't be the breadwinner, because is it preferable by most? No. But my question then becomes again, what do you tell your daughter? Like if you're raising a daughter who's naturally gifted at math and science and gets a scholarship to go to, medical school or whatever. Well, if you go to medical school, if you become a doctor or a lawyer, you're never going to have a family. Why? Like, how do you look your daughter in the face and tell her that? Seriously. I mean, if that's the case, hell, why even try in high school? Doesn't matter, right? You want children and family. No point in studying. I think sets a bad precedent. I think, like I said, what needs to happen is that if you have a daughter who is, she's excelling at things, I think you need to have an honest conversation that says, hey, I guess it's not even a daughter. If you're with a woman and that's the case, you guys need to sit down and figure out who's the breadwinner. Most notably, it's probably the person who has the better career path. So that's why I bring that up, man, because again, this is part of the conversation. This is why I say marriage is broken in our community, because we just refuse to have these conversations. We got to start talking about these things. So if your wife has a career path that is more profitable than yours, then she might need to be the breadwinner. I think the point of contention with that is that just because you're the breadwinner doesn't make you the head of the household. Leadership skills make you the head of the household. Now you have to offer. You know what? We're getting way off track. Let's just go ahead and finish this.
Oh, it is so mistaken. You definitely hit the nail on the head. That is the unspoken agreement and sometimes spoken agreement between members of the nuclear family. There is no more nuclear family in the community. So that's no longer the agreement. And as Marcus said, the kids secretly despise their mother. They do. That's what I'm noticing now. They don't want to take care of her. And the worst part about it is that they feel that the mom did birth them as an insurance policy. They feel like it's unfair.
Or they felt like
why would they keep that shape if she birthed for insurance policy?
Some women.
Yeah, she had kids to make sure that somebody was always going to be around, somebody was going to take care of her.
They're actually having kids just so they have somebody to take care of them when they're old. They're saying this out of their mouth on IG. The son husband thing. They're threatening. So there was a lady threatening threatening the son's dad. I don't need you anyway. My son gonna take care of me. I got all the men. I was like, oh God, he's gonna see this when he gets older. This is what the son husband dynamic is.
Yeah,
I think the father and mother roles are the yin and yang of the family, right?
Yeah.
And if you're missing, let's say, I'm gonna take it up for the man. Let's say you're missing the mother. I could easily see that the daughter accepting the roles that a mother might fulfill, and that daughter having an issue growing up, and vice versa. If you're missing the father, you put that same onus on the son.
Yeah,
to
I agree.
Operate as the man of the house. Those things can scar children dramatically, and it can create a overreaching problem because latchkey kids were pretty much their own parents for the most part. Their parents, you went to school, came home. The parents might have still been at work, and maybe got an hour with them before they went to sleep. It's really hard to give your kids what they need to, if nobody can watch them, especially in they most adolescent years. Because I think the person you are from like 0 to 13 is pretty much who you're gonna be as you age. Am I breaking up again?
I don't know what you're crack-a-lacking over there.
Yeah. But what I was trying to say, isn't that the norm historically, even way back in the day? Like you had a bunch of kids, and you had kids, and then the oldest ended up rearing the younger kids. Even when we grow up, my oldest sister, we were of that latchkey kid generation. When my parents worked, she was in charge. So I think that has been a normal progression when you have multiple children. So I don't understand how that dynamic would be any different than that now.
So it's the difference between being an auxiliary parent and expecting to take on the roles of a whole parent. There are single moms that are requiring their daughters to cook, do the hair of all the girl, like. You see what I'm saying? Like all of that type of stuff.
My oldest sister did.
I'm saying what I'm saying is,
but there's a difference though, because single mom's working 2 jobs, so she may be working 12 hours a day, and it's the oldest job to basically be the parent. But the problem is that being a parent takes a lot of mental toughness. And you have to gain that. It takes a couple decades for you to actually mentally mature into the role where you're ready to raise children. And a teenager just doesn't have it yet. Then you're trying to compile on, they still got to go to school and get their own stuff together. That is way too stressful for a teenager. And it does create long-term. Fast solutions come with slow problems. Yeah, it's a quick solution. Well, the oldest can watch them, and I got to go to work. You're stuck in survival mode. That's what's happening there. You're making battlefield decisions, which most of the time are short-term decisions that have negative long-term effects. Because again, this is how you get controlling women. They're used to controlling everything. The oldest is the girl, and she's used to telling everybody what to do and not being questioned. Gentlemen, how does that work out when you're dating her? Exactly. See, this is what I mean when I say, we need to do a better job of raising our kids. Two-parent households. Now you and your wife split the home duties as well as the income. So now you can work at different times, and it's not always the kid that relieves some of the responsibilities of the children, and leaves a lot of the stress of the children too, because they ain't got to sit there and, well, look, let's just go ahead.
Kids than any of y'all or
Does
less?
she have what?
More or less kids than any of the other sisters?
No, we all have 2 children.
She was the first one to have kids?
No, actually, she was. Well, I'll say my brother was the last, but she was the third. She was the third in line. So it was 3 of us. I'm the youngest girl, and she had children after. It was kind of like my middle sister, then me, then her.
So when she was talking about the sequence of events earlier, right, or the sequence of success, or I forget, yeah, I think that when you put that, because I talk about this with my cousins all the time, because all the older cousins, we had kids after the kids we took care of had kids, and I think it makes you more responsible, but it also makes you like
not want to have kids.
not want to go through this.
Yeah,
like it's different being a parent for my own kid. I used to say this all the time. I didn't have the sex. Why do I have to raise the child? I used to be mad about this. Like,
wow,
it could breed some resentment. That's what I'm gonna say. It could breed some resentment.
Okay.
That's how, and I agree
Right.
with that, because that's why when I had my son and my daughter were so far apart, I wanted to make sure that if I had to go somewhere, I'll ask him to watch her sometimes, but I'll pay him to watch her, or I will just take her to her friend, to the sitter's house. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to make sure I didn't have one of those situations where my son took on, taking care of my daughter. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just didn't want to be that parent. Because I know a lot of parents are like that. But did you have something to say, mistaken? Because I was going to change the subject.
No, I'm just saying I'm not concerned. Not that I want to put my kids in that situation, but I definitely know if anything happened to me, if I passed first and my husband was here, my kids will step in, or vice versa. If something happened to him and I'm here, they're gonna step in. Not that I'm intentionally put them in that, putting them in as like they're my, meal ticket or something like that. But that was just the way that
You're
they're
right.
raised. You know what I'm saying?
Some people, I think that we're not, I think that we have to step outside ourselves and understand everybody is not as family oriented as we are. You know what I'm saying? You were talking about people like you have a very close knit family.
Mm-hmm.
I have a very close knit family. It's just what we do, but that's not necessarily everybody's story.
Mm-hmm.
Some people don't come from that village that it took to raise, everybody. And so those are the people who may end up not having, because that connection is just not there. They don't see it. Like my kids see me taking, knowing that we have a responsibility to look out for grandparents. So you instill it in them, and so forth. But I don't think that that's how these generations are being raised these days. I think it's really different on the raising, how people are being raised. Am I right? I mean, does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, mistaken on that's how the village should be putting in. What I'm saying is, it seems to a lot of people like say that generation of parents that was on drugs, or that generation of parents that just for whatever reason were absent, and it wasn't specifically to work, or what, like that bred a lot of resentment. Because what essentially happened is children got robbed of their childhood, and then in adulthood we expected to repay you back for something you didn't do for us when we was kids. That's what I'm describing. Not if you took, like, my grandma ain't never got a problem doing nothing.
Translation: you robbed me of my childhood, and now I have to pay you back for what you stole from me. I get it, man. It sucks. But this is why, again, when we talk about building the community, why marriage becomes a big part of that. Again, I always talk about there are several social constructs that are broken in our community. Marriage is one of them. And look, I get it. Marriage, getting into a marriage or making that big of a commitment to one person for that long, it's scary. And I said this before, especially when the vetting process is broken. But it doesn't mean you don't have choices. one of the things that if you don't want to get married, that's fine. Don't have any kids then. And make sure that you have enough, that you're making enough money so you can make it to the end of life. I don't know how much you need to have saved up because I don't know what you guys' lifestyle looks like right now. But yeah, it's, in the industry, I used to work in financial services, and in that industry, there is a standard number that we would use, and most people don't come close to it. But when you break it down, it actually makes sense. And for those of you who think that you're going to get by with, $500,000 a year, in retirement, I got news for you. If you make $50,000 a year, that money's only going to last 10 years. Think about that. It's something to think about. But look, guys, it's a great conversation, high level for sure. These are the type of conversations that we need to be having within our family when we're raising our children, when we're talking to our spouses. We need to be having conversations like this. This is why I highlighted it in the first place, right? But look, guys, great conversation. Make sure you subscribe to the Peef Experience. The Chic Critique is doing a great job. It's a great show. I'm going to say goes to the next time. Peace.